Remember the morning of November 18th, 2025? You probably woke up, grabbed your phone to check the news, and, well, nothing worked. For a huge part of the world, it felt like the internet had just vanished.
So, let's talk about the day the internet froze. 1 minute, everything was fine. The next, it was like a digital ghost town. We're going to break down exactly what went wrong.
And this wasn't just your Wi-Fi router needing a reboot. We're talking about a massive, cascading failure that rippled across the entire globe in like minutes.
I mean, think about it. You probably tried to jump on X to see what was up. Nope. Internal server error. Okay, maybe get some work done on Canva. Service unavailable. How about a quick game of League of Legends to kill some time? Offline. Even ChatGPT, the all-knowing AI, was completely silent. You weren't alone. Millions of us were just staring at the same broken error screens.
And here's where it gets interesting. A lot of these different websites all started showing the exact same really technical error message. And that was the big clue. It was like a digital fingerprint left at the scene, telling us this wasn't a dozen separate problems. No, something much more fundamental, something deeper had just broken.
That fingerprint pointed directly to one company, a name you've probably never even heard of. But this company works behind the scenes, acting as a super important, totally invisible gatekeeper for a massive piece of the internet.
Okay, so let's pull back the curtain and talk about the company at the absolute center of this whole mess, Cloudflare. So what does Cloudflare even do? Well, you can think of them as a combination of a bodyguard and an express lane for the internet. They have servers all over the world that keep copies of websites close to you, so they load super fast. At the same time, they act like a giant shield, protecting those same websites from cyber attacks that try to flood them with junk traffic. Really, the best way to think about them is as the internet's backstage crew. They're the security guards, making sure no one sketchy gets in, the roadies, making sure everything is set up right, and the traffic cops directing all the data so it gets to you instantly. You never see them, but they are absolutely essential to making sure the show goes on. Or here's another way to put it. They're like the power plant for a huge part of the web. You don't think about the power plant, right? You just flip a switch and the lights come on. But if that one plant goes down, suddenly a whole city is dark. And that's pretty much exactly what happened here. And just how big is this power plant? Get this. Cloudflare's network handles traffic for nearly 20% of all websites on the internet. 20%. That means when they have a bad day, 1/5 of the entire web feels it.
So the big question is, how could a company that's literally designed to prevent internet problems end up causing one of the biggest outages in recent memory? Well, the truth is, it's almost disappointingly simple.
As soon as everything went down, everyone's mind went to the same place. Cyber attack. It had to be, right? Even Cloudflare initially reported a huge, unusual spike in traffic. But when they finally figured it out and released their report, nope, it wasn't some shadowy hacker group. The call was coming from inside the house. So here's the anatomy of the outage, step by step. It started with a totally routine, everyday software update. But this update had a bug that accidentally duplicated a bunch of data, causing a key settings file to suddenly double in size. As this new, bloated file was pushed out to their servers all over the globe, the software on those machines basically had a panic attack. It wasn't prepared for a file that big, its memory overflowed, and it just crashed. A tiny internal mistake created a massive global domino effect. And to their credit, Cloudflare's leadership was really upfront about it. Their CEO, Matthew Prince, put out a statement taking full responsibility. He basically said, "We know we let you down. An outage like today is unacceptable. No excuses, just owning the mistake." But this whole event wasn't just some random tech glitch. It was a massive wake-up call, a huge, unplanned stress test that revealed just how fragile our modern digital world really is. If you look at the timeline, the first errors started popping up around 11:20 in the morning. For the next 3 hours, it was all hands on deck as engineers scrambled to figure out what was going on. They finally pushed a fix around 2:30 in the afternoon, but it took until after 5 p.m., almost 6 hours later, for every single service to be fully back to normal. But you might have noticed something. You could still use Google Search, right? You could still watch YouTube, so why were they fine? Simple. They have their own power plants. Companies like Google and Amazon are so massive that they've built their own independent global networks. They don't need to rely on a middleman like Cloudflare. This outage drew a really clear line in the sand, showing who depends on who in the internet's hidden power structure. So what's the big lesson here?
Well, for one, we love to think of the internet as this decentralized web that can't be taken down. But the reality is, the web we actually use every day is incredibly centralized. It relies on a tiny number of these giant invisible companies that have become critical single points of failure. And it showed us that a simple accidental software bug can be just as disruptive as a massive cyber attack.
And that leaves us with a pretty heavy question. If our entire digital world is leaning on just a handful of companies, who's really holding the keys to the kingdom? The great outage of 2025 was a stark reminder that, well, it isn't us. It's companies that, until that morning, most of us didn't even know existed. Makes you wonder, what other invisible pillars are holding up our world, and what happens when the next one starts to crack?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.